The MH-60 Black Hawk helicopter shuddered violently as the surface-to-air missile's proximity fuse detonated 30 feet from the tail rotor. Chief Warrant Officer Anna Reed felt the aircraft lurch sideways, alarm screaming, the collective bucking in her hands like a living thing trying to escape her grip. Through her night vision goggles, the Colombian jungle mountainside was rushing up fast, too fast, and she had maybe 8 seconds to do something or they'd all be statistics. "Brace! Brace! Brace!" she shouted into the intercom, her voice professionally calm despite the fact that they were falling out of the sky at 3,000 feet with a dying aircraft and 6 Navy SEALs in the back who were depending on her to do the impossible. Her co-pilot, Lieutenant Marcus Webb, was already going through emergency procedures, his hands flying over switches and controls, trying to coax some response from systems that were failing faster than they could compensate. The tail rotor was gone. The missile had seen to that, which meant they were spinning, the aircraft rotating violently around its vertical axis, the world outside a blur of mountains and stars and approaching death. "I've got no tail rotor authority," Webb called, his voice tight. "We're in auto-rotation." "I know," Anna shot back, her hands and feet working the controls with desperate precision. Without tail rotor, she couldn't control the spin. The best she could do was manage the descent, try to bleed off airspeed, and find somewhere to put this bird down that wouldn't kill everyone aboard. The mountain wasn't giving her many options. Steep slopes, rocky terrain, scattered trees, everything designed by nature to destroy helicopters. But there, a small plateau, maybe 50 meters across, covered in vegetation. Not flat, not safe, but better than slamming into a cliff face at terminal velocity. "I'm taking us there," Anna pointed with her chin, both hands locked on the controls. "Northeast, that plateau. Tell the passengers to get tight." Webb was on the intercom instantly. "All personnel, crash positions. Impact in 15 seconds. In the cargo bay, 6 Navy SEALs from DevGru, the most elite special operations unit in the military, were already braced, their years of training and combat experience telling them exactly how bad this was about to get. They'd survived firefights in Fallujah, mountain ambushes in Afghanistan, pirate takedowns off Somalia. But helicopter crashes were democracy in action. They killed operators and support personnel with equal efficiency. Anna fought the collective and cyclic, using every bit of her 2,000 flight hours to slow their descent, to turn their uncontrolled spin into something approximating a controlled crash. The plateau rushed up, green and deadly in the moonlight. 5 seconds. 3, 1. They hit hard. The Blackhawk's landing gear absorbed some of the impact, but not enough. Metal screamed, rivets popped, the windscreen spiderwebbed. Anna's helmet slammed against the overhead panel despite her harness, stars exploding across her vision. The aircraft bounced once, came down again, the left skid collapsing, sending them tilting sideways. For a terrifying moment, she thought they'd roll, but the right skid caught, held, and they slid 30 feet across mud and rock before finally, mercifully, stopping. Silence. The kind that comes after violence, when your ears are ringing and your brain is trying to process survival. "Webb?" Anna gasped, her hands still locked on controls that no longer controlled anything. "Here," he groaned. "Alive. You?" "Same." She hit her harness release with shaking hands, immediately going into post-crash procedures that were drilled into every pilot until they became automatic. "Fuel systems?" "Checking." Webb was already scanning instruments, most of which were dead. "Looks like auto shutoff worked. No fire hazard immediate, but we need to get everyone out." "Agreed." Anna keyed the intercom. "All personnel, emergency egress. Move now." The cargo bay door slid open with a grinding protest of bent metal, and the SEALs poured out, weapons up, immediately establishing a defensive perimeter around the crashed aircraft. Professional, efficient, not wasting time on questions about what had just happened. That could wait. Right now, survival took priority. Anna unbuckled completely, grabbed her survival vest and the M4 carbine she kept secured beside her seat, and dropped out of the cockpit into thick jungle undergrowth. The humidity hit her like a physical blow. They were at maybe 9,000 feet in the Colombian Andes in the wet season, which meant oppressive heat and moisture even at night. Webb was right behind her, carrying their survival gear and emergency beacon. The SEALs had already formed a defensive circle, scanning the darkness through their night vision for threats. The team leader, a grizzled chief petty officer named Jake Morrison, moved to Anna's position. "Ma'am, status?" "Aircraft is down, non-recoverable," Anna reported, shifting immediately into tactical mindset. "No fire, but we're sitting ducks if hostiles come looking." "We need to move." "Agreed," Morrison said. "Good flying, by the way." "Most pilots would have killed us with that landing." "Most pilots have tail rotors," Anna replied with dark humor. "What's our situation?" "We were inserting for a HVT capture operation when that SAM hit us," Morrison explained. "We're about 8 clicks from the target compound, which is now alerted to our presence. Extract bird is 30 minutes out, but we need to move to a better LZ. This plateau is too exposed. But before we show you how a helicopter pilot who just crashed in hostile territory became one of the most dangerous people in these mountains, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Because what's about to happen will prove that when a warrior gets knocked down, the only question that matters is what they do when they stand back up." Anna did a quick assessment of their situation, her pilot's mind automatically calculating odds and options. They had 6 SEALs, all armed and equipped for combat. She and Webb each had M4 carbines with 6 magazines, 180 rounds total, plus sidearms. They had survival gear, medical supplies, and communications equipment. What they didn't have was tactical surprise, secure shelter, or any certainty that whoever shot them down wasn't already moving to finish the job. "We need to call this in," Webb said, already working the emergency radio. "Let command know we're down but alive." While he handled communications, Anna checked her M4. The weapon was familiar. She'd qualified expert with it during survival training, had practiced with it regularly, because helicopter pilots who went down in hostile territory needed to be able to fight their way to safety. She'd just never imagined she'd actually need to use those skills. "All personnel, listen up," Morrison called, his voice carrying authority earned through a dozen years in special operations. "We've got 1 crashed bird, 8 personnel, hostile territory, and unknown enemy disposition. Rules are simple. We move fast, we move quiet, we move together. Pilots, you're in the middle of the formation. If we make contact, you get down and let us handle it. Clear?" "Clear," Anna confirmed, though something in her bristled at the idea of being protected. She was a chief warrant officer with 2,000 flight hours, had deployed 3 times, wasn't some delicate flower who needed sheltering. But she was also realistic. These men were SEALs, and close combat was their specialty, not hers. "Bird 2 acknowledges," Webb reported, finishing his radio call. "Extract is pushing to our location, but they're still 25 minutes out. They want us to move northeast to Rally Point Charlie. That's a clearing about 3 clicks from here that's large enough for pickup." "3 clicks through hostile mountains in the dark," one of the SEALs muttered. "Outstanding." "Could be worse," another replied. "Could be raining." As if the universe had a sense of humor, rain started falling, light drizzle at first, but getting heavier. Morrison looked up at the sky, shook his head, and turned to his team. "All right, we move in 5-meter spread. Standard patrol formation. I'm on point, Peterson. You've got rear security. Pilots in the middle with Reynolds and Jackson. Chen, Williams, you're on flanks. We move tactical. If someone goes down, we handle it and keep moving. Nobody gets left behind, but we don't stop to sightsee." Questions? No one had questions. These were professionals who'd done this kind of movement hundreds of times. Anna fell into position with Webb, both of them adjusting their night vision goggles, checking weapons one more time. The crashed helicopter behind them was a dark hulk in the rain, already being obscured by the jungle. In an hour, it would be harder to spot. In a day, nature would start reclaiming it. They moved out, Morrison setting a pace that was fast but sustainable, navigating down from the plateau toward the denser jungle below. The terrain was treacherous, slick mud hidden under vegetation, sudden drop-offs, scattered boulders that appeared without warning in the limited visibility of night vision goggles. Anna had trained for ground movement, but it was different from flying. In the air, she was in control, Her hands and feet directly connected to the aircraft, her decisions immediately translated into action. On the ground, she was just another person trying not to break an ankle in the dark while carrying 30 pounds of gear through hostile territory. "Movement," Peterson whispered from rear security, his voice crackling over their tactical radios. 6 o'clock, maybe 400 meters, multiple signatures. Everyone froze, weapons coming up, each operator scanning their assigned sector. Through her NVGs, Anna could see what Peterson had spotted, thermal signatures in the distance, moving in a pattern that suggested a search line. Whoever had shot them down was coming to investigate the crash site. "How many?" Morrison asked quietly. "At least 8, maybe more," Peterson reported. "They're spread out, moving toward the crash site." "Then we keep moving," Morrison decided. "They're focused on the bird, not on us. We put distance between them and us, stay quiet, and get to that LZ." They pushed on, the falling rain actually helping to conceal their movement. Behind them, Anna could occasionally glimpse lights in the distance, flashlights or headlamps from the enemy search party. They'd reach the crash site in maybe 10 minutes, find it empty. And then what? Would they assume everyone died on impact and scattered from the wreckage? Or would they realize the crew survived and expand their search? The jungle offered some concealment, thick vegetation that broke up their thermal signatures and provided cover from observation. But it also made movement harder, requiring them to navigate through vines and over roots while maintaining noise discipline. Anna's respect for the SEALs grew as she watched them move. Despite full gear and weapons, they were nearly silent, communicating with hand signals, never breaking their defensive formation. They'd covered maybe a kilometer when Chen, on the left flank, held up a fist, the signal to freeze. Everyone stopped instantly, weapons oriented outward, waiting for whatever he'd spotted. "Contact left," Chen breathed. "Patrol, 3 individuals, 100 meters, moving perpendicular to our route." Anna strained her eyes through the NVGs, finally picking out what Chen had seen. 3 figures moving through the jungle, armed with rifles, clearly searching for something. For them. They were close enough that Anna could hear their voices speaking in Spanish, though she couldn't understand the words. Morrison made a decision with hand signals. They'd hunker down, let the patrol pass, avoid contact if possible. Gunfire would bring more enemies, and they were still 2 clicks from the extraction point. The team melted into cover, each operator finding positions behind trees or rocks, becoming invisible in the darkness and falling rain. Anna pressed herself against a large tree trunk, her M4 held across her chest, breathing slowly and quietly through her nose. Webb was 3 meters to her right, equally still. The enemy patrol came closer, their footsteps squelching in the mud, their voices carrying in the humid night air. They were being careless, not expecting contact, probably thinking that if anyone survived the crash, they'd be injured and easy to find. 75 meters, 50, 25. One of them passed within 10 feet of Anna's position, so close she could see details through her NVGs. An older man, maybe 50, with a thick mustache and an AK-47 slung casually over his shoulder. He was smoking a cigarette, the ember bright against the thermal background, talking to one of his companions about something that made them both laugh. Then he stopped, turned, looked directly at the tree where Anna was hiding. She didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't even blink. Her finger rested lightly on her M4's trigger guard, ready but not yet committed. If he spotted her, she'd have to shoot, and then everything would go loud. The man stared for a long moment, his head cocked like he'd heard or seen something that didn't quite fit. His hand moved toward the AK-47's grip. Anna's finger touched her trigger. Then a branch snapped somewhere to the right, probably an animal or just the rain, but it drew the man's attention away from Anna's position. He muttered something, took another drag on his cigarette, and moved on, following his companions deeper into the jungle. Anna counted to 60 after they disappeared, forcing herself to remain still, even though every instinct screamed to move, to put distance between herself and the threat. Finally, Morrison gave the hand signal to continue moving. They pushed on through the jungle, the rain falling heavier now, visibility dropping even with night vision. Anna's uniform was soaked through, her boots squelching with every step. The M4 felt heavy across her chest, and she was acutely aware that she'd come within seconds of her first real firefight. "Rally Point Charlie, 1 click," Webb whispered, checking their GPS. "Extract bird is 15 minutes out." "We're going to make it," Reynolds said quietly. "Clean extract, nobody hurt, textbook E and E." That's when the jungle erupted with gunfire. Rounds snapped through the trees, impacting bark and earth, the distinctive crack of AK-47s on full automatic. The SEALs reacted instantly, returning fire, each operator engaging targets based on their training and experience. Morrison's voice cut through the chaos. "Contact front, 50 meters, multiple hostiles." Anna dropped into cover behind a fallen log, her M4 coming up to her shoulder, muscle memory from training overriding the shock and fear. Through her NVGs, she could see muzzle flashes in the vegetation ahead. At least 6 weapons, maybe more, all firing in their direction. "Pilots, stay down," Morrison ordered. "SEALs, suppressing fire. Peterson, get on that radio and tell Extract we're in contact." But even as the SEALs returned fire with controlled precision, Anna could see more thermal signatures appearing from the flanks. They'd walked into an ambush, or the enemy patrol had circled back with reinforcements. Either way, they were suddenly fighting from 3 sides. "Contact right," Chen called, his weapon engaging new threats. "They're trying to flank." "Contact left," Jackson added. "We're being surrounded." Morrison made a split-second tactical decision. "We punch through the front. Williams, Reynolds, grenades. Everyone else covering fire. On my mark." 2 grenades arced through the air, exploding in the enemy positions with thunderous concussion. The SEALs surged forward, their weapons firing in controlled bursts, pushing through the ambush with aggressive violence that caught the enemy off guard. Anna and Webb moved with them, staying low, their M4s up and ready. This was it, the moment every pilot trained for but hoped would never come. She was in a firefight, and survival meant moving forward and shooting back. An insurgent appeared from behind a tree directly in front of her, his AK-47 swinging toward her position. Anna didn't think, didn't hesitate, didn't freeze. Her M4 was already pointed in his direction, her fingers squeezed the trigger, and the weapon bucked against her shoulder. 3 rounds, controlled burst, exactly like she'd practiced hundreds of times on the range. The insurgent went down. Anna kept moving, kept her weapon up, eyes scanning for the next threat. Her heart was pounding, adrenaline flooding her system, but her hands were steady and her mind was clear. Training had taken over, turning her into what she'd been trained to be, a warrior who could fight regardless of the odds. "Through!" Through exclamation mark, Morrison was shouting, and the team was pushing out the other side of the ambush, leaving dead and wounded enemies behind them. "Keep moving! Rally point is 600 meters!" They ran through the jungle, a fighting retreat that was more fighting than retreating, the SEALs maintaining fire discipline while creating distance from the contact. Behind them, Anna could hear voices shouting in Spanish, more weapons firing, but the sounds were growing more distant. "Extract bird inbound," Peterson called. "They're 3 minutes out." "Then we move faster," Morrison replied, his breath coming hard now from the exertion. "Williams, you're hit." Anna glanced over and saw one of the SEALs clutching his shoulder, blood visible even in the green glow of night vision. But he was still moving, still holding his weapon, still fighting. "I'm good," Williams called back. "Flesh wound. Keep moving." The rally point appeared ahead, a clearing in the jungle, maybe 50 meters across, just large enough for a helicopter. Through the falling rain, Anna could hear the beautiful sound of rotor blades getting louder, the extract bird approaching fast. "Pop smoke," Morrison ordered, and purple smoke grenades arced into the clearing, marking their position for the inbound helicopter. But the enemy wasn't giving up. Rounds continued to snap through the trees, and Anna could see thermal signatures closing from multiple directions. They'd made it to the LZ, but they'd have to hold it long enough for the helicopter to land and get everyone aboard. "Defensive perimeter," Morrison commanded. "SEALs on the tree line, pilots in the center. We hold until wheels up." Anna took a position facing the direction they'd come from, her M4 scanning for targets. Webb was beside her, their backs to each other, covering different sectors. The Black Hawk appeared overhead, descending fast, its door gunners already engaging targets with their miniguns, the distinctive buzzsaw sound adding to the chaos. 60 seconds, the pilot's voice came over the radio. "Make it fast." The helicopter touched down, its crew chief waving frantically for them to board. The SEALs began bounding back toward the bird, alternating covering fire, each operator moving when another had them covered. "Pilots, go!" Morrison ordered. "We'll cover!" Anna ran toward the helicopter with Webb, both of them keeping their weapons oriented toward threats. They reached the cargo bay, hands pulling them aboard, the crew chief already counting heads. "SEALs, move!" Morrison's voice was barely audible over the rotors and gunfire. One by one, the operators bounded back to the bird, each one providing covering fire for the next. Williams made it aboard, bleeding but mobile. Reynolds, Chen, Jackson, all accounted for. Peterson sprinted from the tree line, rounds kicking up mud around his feet. Then Morrison was hit. Anna saw it happen. The team leader was the last man moving to the bird, providing covering fire, when multiple rounds caught him in the chest and legs. His body armor stopped the chest shots, but the leg wounds dropped him 15 meters from the helicopter. "Man down!" Peterson was already moving back out, but Morrison's voice stopped him. "Stay on the bird." "That's an order." "Negative," Peterson shot back, already halfway to his team leader, but Anna was faster. She didn't think about it, didn't calculate the odds or consider the risk. She just saw a teammate down and reacted, jumping out of the helicopter before anyone could stop her, sprinting across the open ground toward Morrison. Rounds cracked past her head, impacted mud around her feet, and she kept running. She reached Morrison, grabbed his vest with one hand while keeping her M4 up with the other, and started dragging him backward toward the bird. "I told you to stay on the helo," Morrison groaned through gritted teeth. "And I'm a pilot, not a SEAL," Anna shot back, pulling him across the mud. "I don't have to follow your orders." Peterson reached them, grabbed Morrison's other side, and together they hauled him toward the helicopter. Anna's M4 was across her back now, both hands on Morrison's tactical vest, her legs burning from the effort of dragging a 200-pound man through mud while being shot at. 10 meters, 5. Hands reached out from the helicopter, pulling Morrison aboard, then Peterson, then Anna. The instant her boots left the ground, the pilot was pulling pitch, the Black Hawk clawing for altitude, door gunners still firing, the LZ disappearing below them into darkness and rain. Anna collapsed against the cargo bay wall, chest heaving, adrenaline crashing, her hands shaking now that the immediate danger had passed. The medic was already working on Morrison, getting tourniquets on his legs, starting an IV, his movements practiced and efficient. "You're crazy, you know that?" Morrison said to Anna, his face pale but his eyes clear. "Pilots don't do that. Pilots stay on the bird." "This pilot does," Anna replied simply. Peterson was staring at her with something like awe. "Ma'am, you just ran into an active firefight to pull our team leader out. That's not in the pilot handbook." "Maybe it should be," Webb said, grinning despite the tension. "Anna doesn't really do things by the book." The crew chief approached, offering Anna a bottle of water. "Ma'am, I've been flying with SEALs for 6 years. Never seen a pilot do what you just did. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I've witnessed." "Little of both, probably," Anna admitted, drinking the water, her throat raw from exertion and adrenaline. "How's Morrison?" "He'll make it," the medic reported. "Took rounds in both legs, but no arterial damage. He'll be sidelined for a few months, but he'll recover." "Good," Anna said, then looked at the SEAL team gathered around her. "You guys saved our lives when we crashed. Seemed only fair to return the favor." "Ma'am," Reynolds said seriously, "we train our whole careers for ground combat. That's what we do. You're a helicopter pilot who crashed, walked out, got in a firefight, and then ran back into the kill zone to pull out a wounded operator. That's something else entirely." "That's being a warrior," Chen added. "Doesn't matter what your job description is. Tonight, you proved you're one of us." The helicopter banked, heading toward the forward operating base, leaving the hostile mountains behind. Anna looked out the open door at the landscape below, the same jungle that had tried to kill her twice in one night, first with a missile and then with bullets. She thought about the crashed Black Hawk they'd left behind, about the firefight in the jungle, about dragging Morrison across open ground while being shot at. She thought about the insurgent she'd shot, her first confirmed kill, and how it didn't feel like she thought it would. It didn't feel heroic or terrible. It just felt necessary. You okay? Webb asked quietly, sitting beside her. Ask me tomorrow, Anna replied honestly. Right now, I'm still processing the fact that we survived. More than survived, Webb corrected. We fought. We adapted. We brought everyone home. That's a win in my book. The FOB appeared on the horizon, its lights bright against the darkness, promising safety and hot food and medical care. As they approached for landing, Anna realized that something had changed in the way the SEALs were looking at her. Not with the professional courtesy they'd shown before, but with respect. The kind of respect that was earned, not given. They touched down on the landing pad, medical personnel rushing forward with stretchers for Morrison and Williams. As Anna climbed out of the cargo bay, her legs stiff and her whole body aching, she was surprised to see dozens of personnel gathered around the pad. Pilots, maintainers, support staff, all watching the incoming helicopter with unusual interest. Word travels fast, Webb observed. They all heard what happened. Anna walked toward the operations center to debrief, but a voice stopped her. Chief Reed. Hold up. She turned to see a full colonel approaching, his expression unreadable. Colonel Marcus Hendricks, commander of all aviation operations in this sector. Anna straightened to attention, suddenly aware of how she must look, covered in mud and rain, her uniform torn, her hair a mess despite the regulation bun. Sir, she acknowledged. I need to understand exactly what happened tonight, Hendricks said, though his tone wasn't harsh. I've got SEAL team leaders telling me that one of my helicopter pilots not only survived a crash, but then engaged in ground combat and performed a casualty rescue under fire. Please tell me they're exaggerating. Sir, I can explain, Anna started. I hope you can, Hendricks interrupted. Because I'm trying to decide whether to write you up for a medal or for violating about 17 different safety protocols. Morrison, being loaded onto a stretcher nearby, called out weakly, Sir, with respect, if you write her up for anything except valor, the entire SEAL community is going to have words with you. That pilot saved my life and engaged the enemy like she'd been doing it for years. Hendricks looked from Morrison to Anna, his expression softening slightly. Is that true, Chief Reed? Did you engage enemy combatants? Yes, sir, Anna confirmed. One confirmed kill with my M4, multiple suppressing fire engagements, and yes, I left the extraction helicopter to assist with casualty recovery. Sir, I know that pilots are supposed to stay with the aircraft, but you saw a teammate down and you reacted, Hendricks finished. Chief Reed, I've been in the Army for 26 years. I've seen a lot of pilots. Most of them are excellent at flying. A few of them are warriors who happen to fly helicopters. You just proved you're in that second category. He extended his hand. That was exceptional work tonight. Exceptional. And yes, there will be medals, and probably some additional training requirements, because if you're going to make a habit of getting into firefights, we need to make sure you're properly trained for it. Anna shook his hand, relief flooding through her. Thank you, sir. But honestly, I was just doing what anyone would do. No, Peterson said, having walked over to hear the conversation. You did what a SEAL would do. There's a difference. Most pilots would have stayed on that bird, frozen up, or made a mistake that got someone killed. You ran toward the danger, kept your head, and brought our team leader home. That's not what anyone would do. That's what warriors do. Over the next several hours, Anna went through debriefs with intelligence officers, aviation safety investigators, and medical personnel. She recounted every detail of the crash, the enemy engagement, and the extraction. Her M4 was taken for inspection. They confirmed she'd fired 11 rounds total, including the 3 that had killed the insurgent in the jungle. By the time she was cleared to return to her quarters, it was nearly dawn. She was exhausted, running on fumes, but her mind wouldn't shut down. She kept replaying moments from the night, the missile impact, the crash landing, the ambush, Morrison going down, her decision to run back into the kill zone. She'd thought she knew what combat was like. She'd flown dozens of missions, taken fire, supported troops in contact. But this had been different. This had been personal, immediate, visceral. This had been her finger on the trigger, her rounds finding targets, her actions directly determining who lived and who died. There was a knock on her door. She opened it to find the 6 SEALs standing there, still in their combat gear despite the late hour. "Ma'am," Peterson said formally, "we wanted to say something before the adrenaline wears off and we forget." "You don't need to," Anna started. "Yes, we do," Reynolds interrupted. "We've worked with a lot of pilots over the years. Good ones, great ones, even legendary ones. But tonight you didn't just fly us. You fought beside us. You bled with us. And when it mattered most, you risked your life to save one of ours." Chen stepped forward, holding something. "This is a SEAL Team Challenge coin. We only give these to people who've earned them through actions, not rank or position. You've earned it." He placed the heavy metal coin in Anna's hand. On one side was the sealed trident. On the other, a simple inscription, "Not on my watch." "That's our team motto," Morrison explained, leaning heavily on crutches but refusing to stay in medical. "It means we don't leave people behind, we don't quit, and we don't accept failure when lives are on the line. You exemplified that tonight, Chief Reed. You're honorary SEAL Team 7 now. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, you call us. We take care of our own." Anna felt her throat tighten with emotion. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything," Jackson advised. "Just know that the word is already spreading through the special operations community. By tomorrow, everyone from here to Virginia Beach is going to know about the helicopter pilot who crashed, walked out, got in a gunfight, and then ran back into danger to save a SEAL. That's the kind of story that becomes legend." After they left, Anna sat on her bunk, turning the challenge coin over in her hands. She thought about the question that would undoubtedly be asked in the coming days, the one that was probably already being whispered around the base. Who was the pilot who got shot down and walked out alive? The answer was simple. She was a warrior who happened to fly helicopters. She was someone who understood that the uniform didn't make you brave. Your actions did. She was a pilot who'd learned that sometimes the mission required you to step outside your comfort zone and become something more. She'd crashed in enemy territory, survived an ambush, fought her way to extraction, and pulled a wounded teammate out of the kill zone. And she'd do it again without hesitation, because that's what warriors did. They adapted. They overcame. They brought each other home. The SEALs had whispered, "Who shot down that helicopter?" And then she'd walked out alive, proving that it didn't matter how many times you got knocked down. What mattered was how you stood back up and what you did with the time you had left. Anna Reed had stood up, and the enemy had learned, too late, that underestimating a warrior was always a fatal mistake. 3 weeks later, in a ceremony attended by senior leadership from across the special operations community, Anna stood at attention, while a general pinned the Distinguished Flying Cross on her chest, the nation's highest aviation award. The citation read in part, "For extraordinary achievement while participating in aerial flight, displayed exceptional courage under fire, engaged enemy combatants with distinction, and performed a combat rescue at great personal risk." But the award Anna valued most was the challenge coin in her pocket, the one that said, "Not on my watch," the one that meant she'd been accepted into a brotherhood that didn't care about rank or gender or job description. They cared about one thing. Could you be counted on when everything went wrong? Anna Reed had proven she could. And in doing so, she'd become the answer to a question that would be asked for years to come. Who was the pilot who crashed in hostile territory and walked out alive? She was a warrior, and that was all that mattered. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of courage.